All right. Welcome back to DAO Talk. This is DAO Talk Weekly, your one-stop shop for everything DAOs. This is DAO Talk episode 27, second episode back with our favorite penguin, Frisian. How are you, my man?
What up? I'm back. It's good to be back. Ready to talk DAOs.
All right, let's kick it off with a tweet from our favorite founder, Dennison. Replying to a tweet from CoinDesk, a new collective of DAOs known as WAG-BTC is raising funds to bid on another original copy of the U.S. Constitution, which is being auctioned at Sotheby's next week. For those unfamiliar, back a couple, maybe even a year ago, a group of people organized to try and buy the Constitution. It was called Constitution DAO. They almost won, only to be outbid by, I think, like the CEO of Citadel, who's like the big guy behind like busting the Reddit GME traders. Just did it as a troll move. He spent like 50 mil or something like that just to like fuck people over. But long story short, irrelevant. Dennison replies, I'm going to go out on a limb and just say it. After everything we've been through, a team comes to call themselves a DAO, gives no proof of being a DAO, nothing on chain except taking your money. We've done this before, folks. Enough is enough. Frisian, thoughts on this?
I love Dennison out here getting to the shits. Like, look, the reality is that, like, you can see if you dig into this conversation in the replies, Constitution DAO was a double-edged sword. On the one hand, it was the most viral, the most popular, the most mainstream adoption-y DAO thing that has ever happened. It attracted people who were not hardcore crypto people. They raised a lot of money really fast. It was really compelling from a media perspective. And so all of those things are good for the DAO space. On the flip side, the way they approached the way that it was actually organized didn't really adhere to the principles of what we really consider to be a DAO. In other words, there was almost nothing that was decentralized, autonomous, or autonomous about the organization. It was, the funds were collected in a multi-sig, and the community didn't really have like any sort of veto power or ability to trustlessly like control the funds. And that showed up in terms of like the way a lot of decisions were made. And so there's another group coming back trying to kind of capitalize on that momentum, and they haven't learned anything on the DAO side of things as far as how to do this. And so Dennison is just like calling it out because that happened in the bull market. And since then we've seen so many rugs, so many things that were DAOs in name only. There's been huge regulatory blowback for people who are kind of create DAOs, but there's only a couple of voters, like the Uki DAO situation. And so I think there's just a huge number of reasons not to do things this way. And here we are, getting another headline of something that's like a DAO, but doesn't really capture any of the benefits of DAOs or doing things on a blockchain. And so, yeah, I love to see it. And then, yeah, we'd love to like just dive into kind of the back and forth, a little bit of the back and forth on this with the community.
Yeah, if you're listening to this, even if you're watching, I consider going to check out this entire thread. Dennison, and I believe one of the people who is running this new DAO, is it called the People DAO? I don't know. I'm not 100% sure. I think it is. They had a very lengthy conversation. This is just a couple little snippets from it. But definitely go check that out to get the full nuance to all the conversations. But something I think we've talked about ad nauseum over all of this, and the biggest thing is a multi-sig is not a DAO. And Dennison talks about that pretty extensively in there. And it goes beyond just a multi-sig, but there needs to be voices out here in the streets, and Dennison is one of them, and I think we are at Tally are one of them. I know Frisian is for sure, and I'm trying to be a little more like calling out bullshit when we see it around like, what is true decentralization. And it's okay to not be truly decentralized in some sense, that's why Tally's built things like groups where, it is off chain, you are organizing off chain. But when it comes to something like this, where there's millions and millions of dollars on the line, which hopefully is going to happen more as the space progresses, and more ventures move to kind of this decentralized model. It's super important to have the correct infrastructure in place, and especially when a project like this, in my opinion, I don't know if you would agree, but it hit the mainstream pretty hard. A lot of normies I've heard it in conversation outside of my typical crypto Web3 bubble. And I think Aaron, in our interview last week or this week that came out this week, he talks about how Constitution DAO, when it first happened, was a really big moment for a lot of people who finally kind of understood, oh, this is what DAOs are. This is what DAOs unlock. So if this is kind of like a first entry or first taste for a lot of people, I think it's super important to get it right. I think that's something we talk about a lot, is a lot of times it is getting it wrong. For instance, not directly related to DAOs, but FTX, that's a lot of non-crypto native people's first interaction with crypto. And that's something we've talked about the last couple of weeks. It's set us back so far because of this negative taste in their mouth. So,
yeah, I think there's a few interesting points that are brought up here. So Mike Dudas, he helps, is a leader and was a founder of a DAO called Links DAO, where they issue NFTs, and there's sort of this community kind of governance around potentially investing in a golf course or creating memberships and kind of golf experiences. It's cool. He's gotten traction with Steph Curry and has a bunch of people interested. And so he's kind of familiar with some of the legal constraints around the level of decentralization you can really have. So with the Constitution, they're trying to buy a physical non-blockchain based object, right? And so at some point, the legal system needs to come into play in terms of actually acquiring the Constitution. And to do that, the DAO can't fully own it, within the legal constraints today. So with Mike Dudas's Links DAO, right? The community cannot actually permissionlessly own a golf course if they buy it. It's just not currently legally feasible to have anyone permissionlessly jump in and get whatever fraction of the investment in whatever legal structure that they create to own the golf course. And similarly, there may be constraints around how people, anyone can sort of permissionlessly own this artifact in whatever legal structure they use to acquire it in the US. And that's totally fine, but we can have, permissionless on-chain governance of the funds up until the point that happens. Right? What happened last time is they failed, and then all the funds were just stuck in a multi-sig that a few people controlled. And then those people decided what happened to the funds after that. Right? So there's no reason that during the fundraising period, it needs to be opaque, non-transparent, non-autonomous, and trusted. Right? So as a community, obviously as the blockchain interacts with real world assets, which is necessary and an important part of the overall growth of the ecosystem, it's not going to be completely trustless and autonomous at every step. But what you want to do is maximize the level of decentralization and autonomy, and maximize the benefits you're getting from the properties of doing it on the blockchain. Because if you don't, and Dennison actually says this, it just ends up looking like a rug, right? It's if you don't get any of the benefits to the community of using the blockchain, then why are you doing it? You're doing it just for marketing. You're doing it because people are oh, it's crypto and DAOs, so it's community governed. But and so I'm more willing to give you my money. But then when you look at it, it's no different than you just send this bro $5 million on Venmo, right? In terms of the actual transparency and autonomy that's involved in the situation. So I think Dennison's kind of throwing down the gauntlet here and just being look, you gotta just don't call it a DAO. It's fine. If you don't want to incorporate any of the benefits of DAOs, do not use the word DAO.
He's kind of taken the charge from it. If you're looking at this, he's responding to a tweet from Spencer Graham, who's kind of congratulating him, commending him for laying down the gauntlet, like you said. And he's like, I think I'm going to get a lot of heat from it, but Dennison can handle it. Dennison, in my opinion, is someone I greatly respect in terms of like having a thick skin, especially on Twitter. There's a lot of times where like people respond to him in certain ways, particularly when he like pissed off the Avalanche ecosystem like really early on, like, when I joined Tally. And a lot of the responses he was getting, if I had them, I was getting offended. I was getting mad for him. Like, you're just gonna let him talk like this? And he just responds super, super, kind spirited and nice, and just like nothing else matters. And yeah.
By the way, he was right about that. Basically, we released support for Avalanche and no one used it. And then, like, we've talked about this before. True, like, projects that actually have decentralized on-chain governance is one of the strongest possible signals that, like, what's happening is sort of, like, at least semi-organic and not a scam. And, like, when we released support for Avalanche, we got, like, a bajillion retweets and likes, but, like, no one ever actually built a DAO on Avalanche. And so he's like, what's going on here? Like, these metrics aren't adding up. And I mean, if you look at what's happened to Avalanche since that tweet, like, he kind of, he kind of, that was kind of like around the timing of sort of the beginning of the end, right? Of the whole Avalanche narrative. So yeah, he wasn't wrong, but this is what people talk about with like calling out scammers, people who called out Terra Luna, people who called out Sam Bankman-Fried. Like, it's very thankless in the moment. Like, it sounds cool afterwards to be like, I called this out and it actually was a scam. But in the moment, you just get abused by everyone who's like trying to like ride the hype train of that thing. So it's very thankless and unfun in the moment to do these things, but very important.
Yeah, I'd encourage everyone to do it. Maybe it's not going to look the same as, someone like Dennison. Dennison's very good at doing it in a way where, we were talking about earlier, like, I'm not trying to be harsh, and then he's kind of harsh, but he does it in a way that's like, he's not attacking you personally. He's just someone who's a very firm believer and a very notable and reputable builder. And he understands that, and he understands his voice carries weight. And this is his way of making change. Like, for instance, for you, it might just be someone you're working with, someone you're building with, or a friend or something like that. I just think it's just super important to reiterate what you said. Like, it's not going to be, you don't do it for like accolades or to be thanked. You do it because you believe in something and you want it to do well long term. And that's something particularly we've talked about throughout our bear market. This is pretty much our bear market podcast. It's just like doing things right, doing things the right way, and understanding that it will pay off in the end. Delayed gratification. I think that's kind of the theme of this episode in general, as we talk about the rest of what we have in store, is just doing things the right way, building on chain, building on the technology that we are all here for, not forgetting where our roots are from. We have a great article from our co-founder and CTO, Dennison's yin to his yang. I don't know how I messed that up, but great tweet. Frisian wrote this one. Good. On-chain DAOs are trust minimized. Bad. Voting on every decision does not scale. Solution. Raf presented the solution. How to run a DAO on-chain without voting on everything. It's a pretty short read, and it's a very, very important read in my opinion, and it kind of led straight into the on-chain summit.
Digging into the nuance of this conversation around, okay, there are some limits, right, to decentralization and autonomy. Some of them have to do with the legal system. Others of them have to do with technology. But a lot of what Dennison was highlighting in that thread is actually we've come a long way as a space from a product perspective on starting to address some of those limits. So when he was talking about buying the Constitution, he was talking about the work that CaliDAO has done to create legal frameworks that align as closely as possible to smart contract logic, right? A lot of progress has been made. With this article from Raf, it's more on the smart contract development side, and some of the things that we've developed to make it possible to actually still have the community retain like autonomy and ownership over the treasury, but reduce the load of having to vote on every single thing. So if you just scroll up a little bit, he just like specifically highlights a few things that you can do. So making sure the DAO still has the ultimate power of the purse through using something like governor and token voting over the treasury, having revocable permissions so that ENS, so like for ENS, right, the governor controls working group membership using Metropolis Pod. So it's like they delegate some authority over funds to these working groups so they can have an operating budget and they don't have to vote on everything. But the DAO can still revoke membership in those groups, right? And using things like Nose to Zodiac modifiers and guards to like put scope around when you give some level of trust or delegation to someone in the DAO, making sure they can't go outside the bounds of like what the DAO has voted to entrust them to do. And then things like optimistic governance, where you sort of like allow contributors to do things, but then you have this ability again to revoke. So anyway, there's like a lot of things that we've built that kind of allow us to like, move forward as organizations, but still retain many of the benefits of DAOs. And like a lot of projects, over time just like haven't really taken the time to implement these things. And I think as Tally people, we like, it's really incumbent upon us to like spread the word, like, okay, here's what we can do, right? To like really take decentralization and autonomy more seriously within the DAOs that we're building.
As we talk about this, and I'm thinking about like what you're saying, and then also just around the on-chain summit that happened this week, is like working for Tally is very interesting because it's, at the end of the day, we have a product that we are selling and like we want people to use it. But at the same time, and I think maybe this is for a lot of tooling companies or companies in Web3, like we're also like missionaries for on-chain basedness, for a lack of a better word. Like we want to see everyone grow and the entire ecosystem grow. And that goes back to like blurring the lines between competition and collaboration. But it's kind of interesting as I'm, still exploring this space, and like, it's just, I don't know what I'm trying to say. It's just a very interesting feeling of like, it doesn't feel like we are selling something like as in like a particular product, but more we are selling an idea, and a new paradigm of work, not to use so many buzzwords, but does that make sense what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, I think the biggest barrier to adoption of Tally is people understanding what DAOs are, and then a layer deeper beneath that, like building DAOs in a way that's actually decentralized and autonomous. Like if they do that, Tally is like very clearly a valuable solution product provider that they will use. And we see this, like most DAOs that are actually decentralized meaningfully, like use Tally in some capacity, right? So yeah, I think that's like, this is an important part of what we're here to do. And it also happens to be something I believe is like the right way to approach things in terms of like building in crypto and Web3, which is why I work here. But yeah, that's like the challenge.
Yeah, a little peek behind the hood of, Tally's ethos, and Frisian plays a very large role in that. And I think hopefully we'll start to see that with a lot of other tooling companies as well. But a big, not a big, but a direct outcome of that belief was the on-chain summit, which happened yesterday. If you're listening to this on a Friday, came out. This was on 2 days ago. Wednesday, we're recording on a Thursday. The on-chain summit was just an idea months ago, just a small little speck of an idea, a way to celebrate and to highlight people who are building on-chain, who are building this future, who are building it the right way, building these on-chain protocols, pushing the envelope, helping people grow, helping DAOs grow. So we had a day pretty much all virtual, and all of these recordings will be published. If you're listening to this, they're probably out already. We're going to release them on YouTube, the panel presentations, and then we're also going to release the panels. The protocol presentations, and we're also going to release the panels as a podcast because the audio was actually pretty good. So we'll release those. The panels are really good. But if you're watching, we're looking at a little highlight graphic of who presented. We had Otter Space, who is a badge or like a credential organization. Another one, Badger. We had OX Splits, which is more finance. Era Finance, which is automated treasury or autonomous treasury management. DAO Research Collective with our friend Kyler, who was hosted before. We had Seed Club, we had Reflexer, and then we finished it up with Arbitrum, which is a great way to kind of bookend the protocol presentations, having the largest layer 2 kind of present and give, tie everything together. It's pretty awesome. So those were the protocol presentations. And then we had 2 panels after. We had one that was based on permissions. It's called Permissions in a Permissionless World. So we had Drake Danner from Badger. We had Nick from Hats Protocol, Raul from Otterspace, and then Evan from Disco. And then On-Chain Reputation End of the Day, which was, if you're going to listen to any of them, I 100% recommend all of them. But the On-Chain Reputation panel was absolutely amazing. It had Oren from Gnosis, Val from Ceramic, Dennison from Tally, Aaron Soskin from Govern, and then David Phelps from JokeDAO. Our plan with that panel was kind of just, let's get all these interesting people in a room who are building products around on-chain reputation and whatnot, tangentially or directly, and kind of just let them talk and have a discussion. And that's exactly what happened. We moderated it. We kind of started it off, but after that, the moderators really didn't play a role. Dennison, Aaron, all of them were kind of just like shit talking each other, laughing, joking. The chat was popping off. So a really awesome time. If you want to go check out any of the things you missed, just go look at Tally's Twitter. We have a lot of tweets from yesterday, a little bit of highlights from everything, a little taste of everything. It's probably unlikely you will consume all of it, but go take a look, see something that piques your interest. Go watch the panel. Each panel is 15 minutes, super short. Each protocol presentation is 15 minutes, super short, and then the panels are about 45, so about a podcast episode. So we'll get those repackaged and out. Frisian, you were able to attend it kind of as an attendee, whereas I kind of saw it from an operations perspective. So I wasn't really able to enjoy it the same way.
Yeah, I loved it. I thought like the experience was very intimate in a good way. It was like for the panels, it was like 30 to 40 people. And it felt like the audience really had a chance to connect directly with these folks like David, Aaron, Arn, Dennis, and Val, are all phenomenal builders and also great people, and super kind and engaging. And so I would say it's a really good learning environment, and just a good time to connect and vibe with the builders who are still here building for the right reasons, which I think is something we should all be doing right now.
If you're listening to this and you attended or you are played any role in any of the On-Chain Summit, thank you so much. It was great. An event is nothing without its participants and its presenters. It really went super well. We had some people asking about another one. Maybe we'll do another one in the future, just because doing it virtually is a little bit easier than planning it in person. Truly, I think we need more events like these, and I think they're starting to pop up a little more. But awesome stuff out of the On-Chain Summit. We'll be posting everything from it. Nothing will be hidden, edited, or whatever. So go check out the Tally YouTube. If you're listening to this, we'll drop some episodes on the Spotify or the Apple podcast feed, but we'll also have everything on the YouTube as well if you want to watch. Few more things. We're going to wrap this up pretty quickly. DAO Tokyo is official. It is live. It has been in the works for a few months. So DAO NYC was this massive one-day celebration of DAOs that we threw with our friends at Consensus earlier this year in June in New York City. Went super well. Awesome time. You've definitely heard of it if you're a long-time listener of this podcast. And if you're not, you can go check out every panel from DAO NYC. It was awesome. DAO Tokyo is forking DAO NYC. So we are not officially hands-on in it, but we are kind of helping them. We have helped them get it off the ground and help them get it running. It'll be the exact same format as DAO NYC, except it'll be in Japan. So go check out that tweet. It is linked in the show notes. Not much to say if you live in the US. DAO NYC will be happening again next year. So don't feel like you have to fly all the way to Japan to do it. Not that any of you would, but definitely awesome. Go check them out. Frisian, anything to say on that?
Yeah. The Fracton Ventures team is kind of like the main organizers of DAO Tokyo. Those people are really awesome. I don't know. If you've been to Ethereum events, you've probably run into them. They're the crew of Japanese folks who are just really friendly and connect with everyone. So really good people. behind this event. The venue, the venue looks wild. So like I would say if you're in Asia, and you want to attend a DAO specific event, there's probably not many DAO specific events that have even like happened in Asia yet. So like if you're in that general area, I know like some parts of Asia are far from Japan, but like if you're on that side of the world, and you want to really vibe with some like DAO builders, I think this is an awesome opportunity with great people.
Absolutely love the team. I've had a couple of calls with them. Awesome team. This event's going to go super well. I have no doubt at all. The venue is absolutely insane. Looks like something out of a movie. So yeah, definitely, if you can, go check it out. And then speaking of live events, and we're ending on this one, ETH Denver is coming up pretty soon, and Frisian and I will be there. Tally team will be there. If you are going to be at ETH Denver, definitely hit us up. Follow us on Twitter. Hit us up either before, after, or during. I'm sure as it gets closer, I know it is a couple months away. We'll have a little more teasers of what we're going to be doing. We're going to be doing a lot with DAO Talk, a lot with Tally, some cool, maybe very limited edition merch. Yeah, Frisian, thoughts on ETH Denver while we wrap this up?
No, we'll see you there. It's DAO event season. It's about to go down. Hopefully it's warmer this year than it was last year at ETH Denver. It was cold as fuck.
We'll see. Super excited for ETH Denver. On-Chain Summit podcast will be coming out later this week or next. If you want to get the written version of this, go subscribe at daotalk.substack.com. That newsletter was on hiatus as On-Chain Summit was happening, but that will be back next week. Otherwise, we'll see you online. Peace.
Peace.